Good day everyone, this is the report of Group 5 about Eugene White's model of communication. Who is Eugene White? He is a famous author for having written a book for colleges and practitioners on leadership and co-written a book on school diversity. He is a board member, a vice chairman, and currently the president of Martin University. He has designed one of the models communication that is well known globally for its unique concept. What is Eugene White's model of communication? Eugene White's model introduced in 1960. So, inintroduce ni Eugene White ito sa taon ng 1960. It is not really a model of how much communication happens, so much as it is a model of what people do when they communicate and the skills they can improve. So, ginawa yung model na ito di lang para malaman natin yung kung ano ang nangyayari sa isang komunikasyon. Ginawa din ito para malaman natin kung ano ang ginagawa or kung ano yung mga paraan na ginagawa ng isang tao pagdating sa pakikipagkomunikasyon. At para na din ma-improve yung skills or kakayahan ng isang tao pagdating sa pakikipagkomunikasyon. Eugene White's model recognized feedback as a part of the communication process. He described the process as a sequential and cyclical. So, dito naman, yung model na ito ay sequential and cyclical, which means na tuloy-tuloy lang yung flow o daloy ng communication. The 8 stages of oral communication. These stages are thinking, symbolizing, expressing, transmitting, receiving, decoding, feedbacking, and monitoring. So, ito yung mga stages ng Eugene White's model of communication. Eugene White model of communication is an interacting pattern of stimulus and response. The listener must react in observable manner and by some direct or indirect means. The speaker must be aware of this response. So dito naman yung listener natin ay yung receiver and the speaker is the sender. So dito, kailangan mag-response or kailangan maging aware yung receiver. Communication as circular and continuous, with no beginning or end. This is why made a cyclical model. We can assume that communication begins with thinking. It can actually be observed from any point in the model. So dito, kagaya na sinabi ko kanina na tuloy-tuloy lang yung flow o yung daloy ng communication. Kagaya nga dito with no beginning or end. Parang wala siyang katapusan. Implies a step-by-step sequence that starts with thinking in the speaker and ends with monitoring with the speaker. So dito, nagsisimula muna siya sa thinking. So kaya siya nagsimula sa thinking dahil paano tayo magsisimula ng pakikipagkomunikasyon kung hindi muna tayo mag-iisip o mag-iisip ng sasabihin natin sa ating kaharap or kausap. Eugene White's 8 oral stages of communication. Thinking, symbolizing, expressing, transmitting, receiving, decoding, feedbacking, and monitoring.
In White's stage model, we have 8 oral stages of communication. First, we have thinking. Thinking means a desire, feelings, or an emotion provides a communicator a stimulus to communicate a need. Thinking is a concept, a sensation, or an emotion are the starting points for communication. Before sending this concept to the receiver, the mind expands on it. So simply put, critical thinking is a technique for constructing our thoughts in logical manner. A coherent thought process is the foundation of effective communication. Clarity of thought is bred bred via critical thinking. The second one is symbolizing. Symbolizing. Before a communicator can utter a sound, he/she has to know the code of oral language with which to present his/her ideas and in order to make his/her selection. So sa symbolizing, importanteng alam mo ang code of oral language bago mo sabihin ang mga nais mong sabihin. Kasi once na hindi mo ito na i-apply sa mga gusto mong sabihin, maaring hindi man maging maganda ang takbo ng inyong usapan. Hindi mo alam kung tama pa ba yung sinasabi mo or hindi ito magustuhan ng iyong kausap. At yan nag-uumpisa ang pagka-boring at pagkawala ng interes.
The communicator then uses his or her vocal mechanism to produce the sounds of language accompanied by his or her facial expression, gesture, and body stance. Once the sender already thought of an idea or message, he can express it through his or her vocal language, accompanied by facial expression, gesture, and body stance. Example, in a speech, the sender need body language, facial expression, and gesture so that the speech won't get boring. Then, next is the transmitting. The sound was transmitted through the audience or the receiver. It is the process where the receiver already heard the message and think of a reaction or a feedback.
The next oral stage is communication is receiving. Receiving is when the sounds make an impact upon the listener ears, after which the resulting nerves impulses reach the brain via the auditory nerve. Receiving is the ideas of the speakers are now transmitted and sent to the receiver. It says here that the receiver has received the message of the sender that is being transmitted by the speaker. The next oral stages communication is decoding. Decoding is the listener interpret the language, symbols she received and thinks further. It says here that the listener will interpret the message of what she received.
Feedback. The listener may manifest over behavior, court behavior like fast heartbeat, a poker face, etc. Monitoring. While the communicator watches for the sign or understanding his or her message among his or her listener, the communicator is receiving and decoding messages about himself or herself from his or her audience in order to adjust to the particular situation. White believes that communication is cyclical since the speaker of the message needs to monitor the response of the receiver in order for him or her to provide a feedback. There is thinking process, meaning all communication starts with a mental process. After the decoding process, the receiver will send his or her response to the message of the speaker and the speaker will give a feedback. After the response of the receiver, the speaker needs to monitor the response of the receiver, same as well as the receiver needs the feedback of the speaker in order for the communication to flow. You cannot provide a good feedback or a proper response to the communicator of the message if you are not listening to what he or she is saying.
The next one is what is the most important contribution from Eugene White's model of communication. The most important contribution from Eugene White's model is the concept of feedback. Eugene White gives his communication student a sequence of events that take place in communication.